Pokemon Champions is currently in development, and it'll usher in a new and exciting age for competitive Pokemon players everywhere. But what Pokemon are there that you guys will need to start looking out for again? Considering Pokemon Champions is currently already showcasing battles that feature terrestrial Pokemon fighting against Mega Evolutions, at minimum, we know these two mechanics will definitely be featured. And while the game hasn't exactly ruled out things like Gigantamax and Z moves, they still definitely have a chance to be showcased at some point. Today, I want to break down what new Pokemon could be coming back in Pokemon Champions and how that'll actually impact the metagame you'll see. While there's a ton of Pokemon we could discuss today, this video is specifically only going to cover returning Pokemon. So all the Pokemon that you would see in Scarlet and Violet classified as good stuff are not going to receive a mention today, as they're honestly just going to be expected to be good in any metagame we get, regardless of mechanics, because at minimum, we know Terra's back. If you guys want to see more videos analyzing competitive Pokemon topics like this, make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe for more to show that you guys want to see more content just like this. Also, let me know what Pokemon you guys think I might have missed, as there's honestly a lot of Pokemon that could be covered in a video like this. With that said though, let's start off with analyzing some of the returning Pokemon for this metagame. Since we know Mega Evolutions are guaranteed to return in some capacity for these games, let's start with that. We're going to assume, for this format, that any restricted or mythical Pokemon are just going to be banned. Essentially, this is going to be comparable to something like a Regulation F or like a VGC 2018 format, but anything besides restricted or mythicals are all going to be fair game. We still have about 43 Mega Evolutions to consider, and among those, I think there's 5 that are still going to have some level of prominence in this type of format. These games, we're going to finally get a format where Mega Kangaskhan is going to be legal again, and that also is really good for base Kangaskhan. And Mega Kangaskhan uses its ability Parental Bond in order to deal massive damage with moves like Fake Out and Double Edge, which it uses to shatter teams despite its low attack stat. Now, Power Up Punch Mega Kangaskhan especially allowed for these sets to take off, as it applied damage to Steel and Rock types that Mega Kangaskhan would need to hit otherwise, and it also gives you a +2 attack stat because it hit twice thanks to Parental Bond. While Mega Kangaskhan will definitely be worse this time around thanks to new anti-priority, Covert Cloak, and even better fake out users like Rillaboom and Incineroar, we will still benefit from a few things such as the buff to Scrappy, which now allows Mega Kangaskhan before it Mega Evolves to prevent itself from getting intimidated, and it also has a specific niche now because one of the best Pokemon in the game is Fluttermane, and having a way to fake out that before it actually goes for a Terra is going to be a pretty big deal now. Meanwhile, for other more utility-focused Megas, we have Mega Gengar, which is going to now have access to Nasty Plot, which gives it a huge edge offensively that it previously lacked. This Nasty Plot moveset will obviously feature moves like Dazzling Gleam, Shadow Ball, Sludge Bomb, and Focus Blast that all give Mega Gengar some really great offensive moves. While you're still going to have plenty of the old support moves such as Perish Song, Encore, and Disable that were really lethal on it back in Generation 6 and 7. I will say, because of new options like Champal and Fluttermane, they're going to allow you to actually outpace Mega Gengar really easily, as well as the changes to Tailwind to make it activate immediately in the same turn. This is going to hurt Mega Gengar a lot in my opinion, and I think it really is going to hinge viability based on what's allowed. But depending on the format, it honestly could end up just being the #1 Pokemon, and I really wouldn't be that surprised. Now let's get into our 3 really offensive Mega Evolutions, as we have some really powerful players here with Mega Salamence, Mega Metagross, and Mega Charizard Y. Mega Salamence is still going to be very powerful, having movesets featuring Hyper Voice and Double Edge to take advantage of its ability Aerialate, while having Tailwind for support and even Roost to keep itself very healthy. Mega Salamence only got better in Generation 7 and ended up winning both World Championships that it was legal in, and one of those even had Xerneas, so I'm sure it's going to adapt in some way, shape, or form to beat Pokemon like Champal and Fluttermane. Mega Metagross is going to benefit a lot actually, as it now gets access to moves like Psychic Fangs, Heavy Slam, and Knockoff that are all a part of base Metagross's move pool, while still having access to moves like Bullet Punch and Earthquake that were staples on it previously. Among our 5 Megas today, I think this one personally has the biggest glow up, as in the last game it was featured in, it wasn't as good, but now it has a lot of niche, as Bullet Punch is really good into a lot of the faster threats in the metagame. Mega Charizard Y is still going to be pretty monstrous, and honestly, thanks to partners like Fluttermane and Raging Bolt, this is going to be a big deal. While I will say it has a bit of an overlap with Chiyu as a strong special fire type with base 100 speed, at the same time though, Fluttermane now gets a Sunsetter next to it that can also activate its photosynthesis while it runs a Choice Specs. So that's going to be a pretty big deal. And while we haven't had explicit confirmation on the return of Gigantamax and Dynamax, at the same time, there are 3 Gigantamax forms that if they are legal, will need to be respected. Charizard, Venusaur, and Colossal all have some very powerful moves that can absolutely devastate teams thanks to the Gigantamax signature moves. All 3 Gigantamax moves scale their damage off the base moves these Pokemon use, but the signature moves allow for Charizard to get a Fire type move, Venusaur a Grass type move, and Colossal a Rock type move that deal 1/6 damage over time to both opponents. And this is for 3 turns, which is a pretty big deal. The only way to get around this is by matching the type of the move that you ended up using. So for example, unless if you're running another rock type Pokemon in your team, good luck avoiding taking heavy damage over time from Gmax Vocalith coming off of a Gmax Colossal. Not only this, but Charizard and Venusaur are very obnoxious on Sun teams with their Gigantamax forms, and they'll only be significantly better thanks to the Paradox options. While Colossal, on the other hand, is going to benefit from a lot of really weak Aqua Jet Pokemon. They can self-target your Steam Engine and allow you to get +6 speed while activating a weakness policy. Because of the fact that Dynamax and Gigantamax Pokemon double their HP stat, good luck KOing these Pokemon in one hit, because it is very difficult, especially because Gigantamax and Dynamax Pokemon can very comfortably invest in bulk here. Aside from our generational and gimmick forms, what Pokemon will actually be good that are completely new to the format? One of the most noteworthy sets of legendaries we've ever had is the legendary quartet, the Tapus. Specifically though, 3 of its 4 members. Sorry, Tapu Pulu. The Tapu Lele is going to be an incredible option for offensive side spam teams. They don't necessarily need the Indeedee for support, and instead would rather just have Tapu Lele wall break for them, with options like Dazzling Gleam and Psyshocks. Its typing and speed tier will be very dangerous for most opponents, especially when it uses a Choice Scarf or Choice Specs to decimate teams. The Tapu Koko is going to probably be a lot worse than it was in its debut generation of Alola. However, if we have access to Z Crystals, Tapu Koko will absolutely claim lives. This is a very splashable, fast electric type that can fit into a lot of different teams, and it has some really good spread moves like Dazzling Gleam and Discharge that can just get high damage very quickly, while also being a really great pivot. A lot of very aggressive playstyles absolutely love Tapu Koko due to its very fast speed tier and electric typing, though its offenses definitely have a lot to be desired thanks to recent power creep. Finally, Tapu Fini is still going to be a monster like it always has been, and easily it's going to be one of the most splashable Pokemon. This is arguably going to be the best returning option we have had in the entire metagame. And I think it's going to be so good with a lot of different archetypes, and it truly has so many different sets that I can't even list them all in this video. It would frankly warrant its own video just discussing Tapu Fini alone. Speaking of Alola Pokemon though, the Ultra Beasts are also going to be very noteworthy this time around. I think even something like a Guzzlord could find its way in the format thanks to the ability Beast Boost, but among the class of Pokemon, I think there's 5 that are going to definitely stand out. The biggest ones of course are going to be Stakataka, Kartana, and Nihilego. Starting off with Nihilego, this is going to be the biggest check to Charizard Y and Fluttermane teams in the entire game, and it can actually probably combat the duo with very little effort. You would need to dedicate a very specific coverage move such as Psyshock and Fluttermane to actually checking this Pokemon, as its very high Spadef and great typing into fire and fairy types is going to be very appreciated here. Now Kartana is going to be just as powerful as it was in Generation 7 and 8, as it's a really good Choice Scarf and Assault Vest Pokemon that can very easily combat teams, especially hard rain teams. Stakataka though is going to be a huge improvement from its previous generations, as in Generation 8 it got access to Body Press, and it has Terra now in Generation 9 to change out of its horrifically bad defensive typing. With moves like Trick Room, Gyro Ball, and Body Press, you're going to absolutely snowball teams more than you ever have in previous generations. And if you're thinking to yourself right now, oh well, Stakataka can't be that good, it's still only a Rock and Steel type, which has a lot of glaring issues, and its Spadef is very low. I implore you to check out the Doubles National Dex metagame, as Stakataka ended up actually getting a complete ban from the format because it was just that oppressive. Now there's still 2 other very respectable Ultra Beasts here that in my eyes at least deserve an eye to be kept on them, with Xurkitree and Celesteela both being at least potentially good. The Xurkitree is going to really rely on Tail Glow to actually be a dominant Pokemon, but if it does get Terra and Tail Glow, this thing will absolutely be claiming lives, as Terra Fairy Xurkitree will be a very big nightmare to take on. Celesteela on the other hand is going to be very impactful based on what Pokemon are at the top. If we see a strong ground type like Ursaluna or Garchomp at the top, then Celesteela will definitely have some merit, but otherwise, I don't really see it, as a lot of common Pokemon are going to just do some massive damage into it. Now, there are still 3 unassorted Pokemon that I would deem at least respectable of your attention in Pokemon Champions. The first one is easily going to be Togekiss. If we keep Dynamax as well, you're going to have to prepare for a lot, as Togekiss was a very powerful user of the mechanic, thanks to Dazzling Gleam and Air Slash becoming very powerful options with Max Starfall and Max Airstream. Also have to beware of Togekiss having Follow Me though, as it was a very powerful redirection option, and thanks to its 2 immunities, you're going to be able to draw in opponents that would otherwise not want to actually attack you. Speaking of a Pokemon that will absolutely take advantage of the game's mechanics, beware of Shedinja. Thanks to Wonder Guard and Terra, this will objectively find some way to be broken, albeit maybe not as oppressive as it is in singles. While there are definitely means of handling it consistently, such as Sand, Will-O-Wisp, or even a very lucky super effective call into the right Terra, you're gonna genuinely have to do a lot of scouting here in order to avoid getting outright completely walled out by this Pokemon. Finally, speaking of Sand, let's talk about Dracovish. Now, Dracovish is gonna be very hit or miss, but I think with the right bans, this Pokemon could be obnoxious. There are objectively a lot more impressive water types now, such as Urshifu and Bastica Legion, but on the right team, this could definitely be a really powerful wall breaker, especially with Terra Water Vicious Ren with the strong jaw ability. Dragonfish at least deserves an honorable mention, but I can't tell you in good faith this will be even comparable to the likes of Togekiss or Shedinja. But I would absolutely at least make sure that you're very clear on how potent Dragonfish would be. Now, what Pokemon do you guys think might be powerful in Pokemon Champions that I didn't mention today? Make sure to let me know in the comments below, and while you're on the way down there, consider subscribing. We make tons of videos like this on the channel every week, and if you guys want to stay tuned for that, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button so I know to keep making them. Also, if you want to go the extra mile, consider becoming a member, as it's a great way to support the content we do, and it helps a lot with paying the editors who make the content come alive for you guys. Our current members are Zeke Zero, Josh the K Ultra Player, Blood Lily, Aegis Dex, Blazing Shots, and Incog M. Thank you guys very much for your support. It truly does mean the world. A massive shout out goes out to the editors who make the content come alive here, as they do an incredible job putting together all the videos you do. Those editors, of course, are going to be Dose, Kurt, and Becca, who do an incredible job editing every video you guys see on the channel. Their links will also be in the description, and I highly implore you guys to go check them out. With that said, I will see you guys in our next upload. Until then, peace out, guys.